Welcome back to the next episode of Beyond Reps. This is episode 4, starting to build the routine now. Feeling good, looking forward to the pod every single week. How are you feeling about it, Charlie?
Yeah, all good, mate. Getting into a good rhythm with everything, and it's actually feeling natural. Every week is becoming a part of the weekly routine. It's in the calendar. It's not going to be missed every week. And yeah, I'm all good. How's your week been?
Yeah, not too bad. I'm coming back from the deload, so I've actually completed my fourth session so far out of five this week. It's definitely been an eye opener for me and a bit of a humbler, to be fair, as well, because some of the sessions I would have effectively not trained for 14 days on some of them because I would have missed that session and then I went around for a whole nother cycle. So although I've taken 5 full days rest, I feel like strength definitely dropped off a little bit. However, what I would say is that it's given me an opportunity to really focus on executing my form like 100%. So I've been recording myself in the gym, and I've also been really making sure that my form's getting standardized so that when I push forward for my next sort of increase over the next probably 6 weeks or so, as I finish off this bulk, I then really want to make sure that the weight that I'm progressing with, it's actually got absolutely A1 form. So it's been good from that point of view. It's the second deload I think I've had in like 12 months or something like that, so it doesn't come around often. So I tried to make the most of it, getting back into the routine now. Looking forward to getting back to the numbers that I had previously in the logbook. I'd say that I look back at like my incline press and stuff, and I've taken like 10 or 15 key off that now from the top set, and I'm like, how the hell did I move that before? And so I was feeling a bit weak, but yeah, getting back into it. How's things with you?
Yeah, all good, mate. I'm week 5 of photo shoot prep, so finally sub 90 kilos. So I'm feeling good. I'm feeling light. I'm starting to feel slightly emaciated, but it's part of the process. And yeah, it's going well. Hunger's not too concerning. Cardio's going well. Training's actually progressing, which is always nice. I was kind of in a phase pre-photo shoot where I was just going through the motions. I was kind of maintaining the lift, but I wasn't pushing for progress. Whereas now every week there's always progress on one lift or the other, and I'm always pushing for that extra rep where I can. So yeah, it's always fun. However, some sessions do get derailed a little bit if someone's using a certain piece of equipment and you have to reorder the session. Then that affects how much weight I can lift. But that's probably just a psychological thing. So I need to push through that. But aside from that, all good, mate. No issues, no complaints. Just this weather is a bit sad. But other than that, living the dream.
Yeah, the weather is absolutely trash at the minute. So we're recording this in the sort of tail end of February and in the UK, and it is completely pissing it down. All day it's been absolutely trash. So I think it's just stopped now. I can't see because it's dark outside. But yeah, and also just relate to the sort of the psychological challenge which comes to when you start losing weight as well. I guess it's almost like a bit of a psyop where people think that, oh, because you're dropping weight, you're going to reduce your strength, and that does happen at a certain point. However, certainly from like my experience, you can still push and increase strength for probably at least maybe 6, 7, 8 weeks or so, depending on how aggressive the body weight drop is. So don't immediately preempt that by dropping the weight yourself. So that's a mistake that I see a lot of clients make. They're like, oh well, I've got less calories in me, so therefore I can't push myself as hard in the gym. When actually you're trying to do the complete opposite. You're trying to really really try and hang on to all that muscle that you've just worked so hard to build during your bulk.
Yeah, exactly. And it's a conversation I had with Paul, my coach, and it's kind of like exactly what you just said. You want to push yourself as much as possible to retain that muscle. So what I'm doing now is if I can see like the weight is consistent and I'm not struggling for reps, then I'm bumping that weight up at least 2.5, 5 kilos, depending on the exercise, and actually just trying to push for more either reps or weight. And if the reps drop because of more weight, that's fine because then I can build up on the reps and then just rinse and repeat that for the rest of the program.
Can't wait to catch up with you in like another 6 weeks time, and you'll definitely be a lot shredded. Hopefully the jaw will be coming in. You'll be mewing on the camera, but you'll probably be a lot weaker because at some point it does start to fall off a cliff, and
Yeah.
you start to really notice it, and you're like, oh my god, this is terrible. I remember when I was deep in my prep in 2022, I got to a stage where I was like back squatting like 80 kilos. It might even have been less than that, and like normally I'd be like on like 120, 140 up to like 150 depending on where I was in terms of body weight. But like you're just like, this weight is just literally used to be my warm up. This is like a few weeks before I actually went on stage. But yeah, it is humbling when it comes around. So you got to enjoy it while you can, and then eventually it will catch up with you.
Exactly, and then just pile on the calories post photo shoot and try and build up strength as quickly as possible.
The post photo shoot slash prep calories is and that swing in terms of body weight and just like euphoria almost you have because testosterone comes straight back up and
Yeah.
you get pretty excited by it all and you start to see your scale weight move up. It's a lot of fun. I always think that when you're deep into a prep you start to think, oh, I really wish I could like get back into a bulk, and then at the minute I'm like right at the tail end of a bulk, like another 6 weeks or so to go, and I'm just looking at my face and it just gets fatter and fatter and fatter every week, and I get more self-conscious about it, and I just look back at like pictures of me when I was dialed at like 79 kilos and I was just ridiculously lean and had an insane sort of looking skull face or prep face, whatever you want to call it, and you start to miss that. But then when I was in that position I couldn't wait to just pack on mass because I felt so skinny all the time.
Yeah.
So whatever way you look at it, it's always a mind fuck. I'd say if you want to get beach lean, that's the optimal state, somewhere in the middle.
Yeah, like that's probably the goal post photo shoot is not fuck up the rebound so I don't get fat as fuck, but then also just maintain some level of condition so I can take my top off and still be like, okay, I look like I've got a good rig. Whereas at the moment it's a bit of a mid rig. It's not bad, but it could do with some improvements.
Yeah, that halfway house is a bit of a mind fuck. I've been in there several times where you start to, because you kind of identify as a big person when you're really deep into the bulk. You're like, oh, I'm a big guy. I move quite a bit of
Yeah.
weight and I'm really strong and all this. And then actually, as you sort of get leaner, the weight starts to drop off in terms of your lifts in the gym and your performance in the gym. So you're like, fuck, maybe I'm not so strong anymore. And then you have to try and think, well, hang on, I'm not very lean either. And then you're like, you've just got to push through because there's an awkward patch there where you haven't got like a decent sort of section, like a midsection or anything like that, and actually you're not as strong as you were, and you're like, well, what even am I? And once you push through and then you sort of change your identity to kind of focus more on the visuals and how you're looking as you're going through a cut, or when you change your identity to focus more on the sort of the weight being moved in a bulk, you've got to really reposition your almost like your mentality towards the gym, because if you stick with that same mentality, then actually going through that change can be a bit of a negative process.
Yeah, exactly. But it's all part of the fun, all part of the process. But to start off with, it's going well. 5 weeks in, another 13, 14 weeks to go. So it's exciting stuff.
Really pleased for you, mate. I can't wait to join you in terms of starting to lose some body weight as well. I think, 6 weeks is what I've got left. Said that a couple of times because I absolutely am counting down the days. It needs to end at some point, and I will enjoy the strength in the gym. But yeah, can't wait to stand beside you and actually like look pretty decent. But excited for yourself, man. I know it's been a little while since you've got that lead, so looking forward to seeing the progress.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll both head to France with the I was going to say the Alps. Is it the Alps? Yeah. So we'll whack our tops off in the Alps and have some mid rigs on show. So they'll be halfway through prep then.
You'll absolutely dominate me on it. I mean, the hot tub scene is going to be absolutely terrible. But yeah, give us Junction 2 later at festivals further on the year. That's when we'll be peaking.
Exactly. Yeah. Peak summertime. That's when the decent rigs come out.
Absolutely, mate. Well, we'll go on to today's topic then. So today's topic, we've titled it, Why You're Not Making Progress and How to Fix This. So essentially what we want to go through in this episode is we basically want to cover the common pitfalls which we see our clients make, which we see people who are maybe less experienced in the gym make. We want to highlight those, and then we want to basically provide some solutions to how we want to start those. So we'll bounce some ideas off each other, and then we'll run through it and probably do a wrap up towards the end. But Charlie, I'll let you go first.
Yeah, so starting off, we see it all the time, setting unrealistic goals. Like, one of the most common things people do is they come in, they set goals that are too ambitious, too unrealistic. We did cover it in a previous episode in kind of like how we would approach that, but we want you to approach it from a position of setting goals that are actually within your reach and you can track them effectively. So rather than coming in and thinking, oh, I want to weigh what I did when I was 18 years old, but you're now a 40-year-old woman who's had 2 kids, chances are you're probably not going to weigh that. So just be realistic with your goal setting, and this kind of comes in with having a plan based around your goal. So if you've got like goals to pack on loads of mass, then you probably want a bodybuilding program. If you want for like physique development and some nutritional guidance around that, that plan is going to be more suited to you. Whereas if you want to lose a bit of weight, then you probably don't need a specific plan, but you just need to have some structure, have some guidance in terms of your movement and your nutrition, and that's going to kind of direct you along the right path. But also, like, cardio does come into that. So if you want to build cardiovascular endurance, aim for like a combination of both types of exercise for optimal results, both health and strength improvements. And then kind of on the back of that, people often get started like New Year, New Me. We see it every year. They want to make a change. They want to lose some weight. They want to get into the gym. But because you're not seeing results straight away, you just sack it off after 2-3 weeks. Whereas you need to lose this mindset of expecting immediate results. I've seen a lot of content recently where they've got like a toilet roll and they're peeling off one sheet at a time, and 3, 4, 5, 10 sheets later, you still don't see a difference in the toilet roll. But then 10, 20, 30, 40 sheets later, the toilet roll has halved in size. So that's the kind of mindset you need to adopt. You're not going to reach your goal in 30 days, 60 days, whatever goal you want to achieve. It's probably going to take a good few months. So the sooner you accept that and understand you're not going to get immediate results, yeah, you might see some scale changes, you might notice changes in your clothes, but the actual result you're looking for is going to take a lot longer than you think it does.
Yeah, I think you just need to zoom out and really look at this as a long-term change to your health. So, for example, if you're looking to build your physique, it's not something that's done in like a 6-week bulk and then you can kind of realize that by a 6-week cut afterwards. It takes a long time to add muscle to your frame. Having done it for 11 years, and I'd still put myself as a decent rig, probably for a natural, but I definitely think there's people who are above me for sure. So it does take a long time to actually build that, so you need to make sure you're aware of that going into it. And I see so many times before where clients are like, oh yeah, if I do like a 6-week bulk and then do a 6-week cut, will I be like you? And it's like, no, like that just isn't how it works. And if that was how it worked, that'd be amazing. But certainly as a natural, you need to manage your own expectations. I think sometimes people can focus too much on the end goal, and they actually forget that if you don't maintain your fitness routine or your training, then actually your body will go backwards. That's why we have like homeostasis. Like if you're not gonna do the exercises to keep that improvement, whether it's cardiovascular improvements or building muscle, then you will lose it. There's a reason for that. So like for example, if you spend even if you spend 6 years, 12 years in the gym and you work really really hard to build a really good physique, like my physique, if I was to stop going to the gym for a year, then I wouldn't look the way I do now. I would end up going backwards. So just important to be conscious of that goal, and that actually sometimes it's not necessarily about the end goal, it's about the journey towards that. A bit cliche that. However, it is true, and that's what I guess is why it's cliche and why it's said so much, because I think sometimes people can get lost focusing on that end goal and think, okay, once I've achieved that, I'll never go to the gym again. But actually, we want to build a sustainable, healthy lifestyle change here. And that's really important to understand.
Yeah, exactly, spot on. And as Jason said, like it's not going to be a cycle of 6 weeks on, 6 weeks off. Sounds like I'm talking about steroids there. I'm not, but yeah, it's going to be a longer term thing. Like we've both been doing this for years, and I bulked for a solid 2 years, if not more. But half of that was untracked, so it wasn't a proper bulk, and it was actual proper calorie tracking bulking for a solid year before I then started cutting and revealing what I'd built. So you have to accept that it's going to take longer than you want it to, but that is part of the process. It's a lifelong change that you're making, and it's a change to your lifestyle that is going to benefit you in the long run.
Segue on to the next one then. So linking with your goals is you need to make sure that you're tracking progress to make sure that you are on to progressing towards your goals. So for example, if you've got a goal in mind and you then set out on a plan towards that goal, but then you don't track progress, maybe 6 weeks pass, 12 weeks pass, and then you go, okay, well, how close am I to my goal? Well, one, you don't know because you haven't tracked progress, and two, you might be miles away from your goal because you never checked yourself to make sure that you was on track. So really, really important that you track your progress. There's many different ways you can do this with the gym depending on your goal. So for example, if you're trying to improve your performance in the gym, which is definitely a key indicator for building muscle and building a physique, then I would suggest you use apps like RepCount or OneFit. Or you can also even go back to like old school like logbook tracking and take a logbook into the gym and track all your sessions in there, because it's then that you can look backwards on your sessions and you can actually see that you've been improving from week to week, which is what we want to aim to do in order to progressively overload our muscle to give us that stimulus. It also allows you to build in the beat the logbook mentality, which is definitely a mentality that I subscribe to, where you need to overdo or improve upon your previous week's performance. So when you go around in your 7-day training cycle again, you need to make sure, say you've got bench press and you did 60 kilos last time for 5 reps, now you need to push for 6 reps. However, if you're not tracking your progress, then you're not got any, there's no like dartboard to throw your darts at basically. So you need to make sure that you're tracking your progress as much as you possibly can. But certainly, if you want to get serious about your goals, this is what changes you from being the person that's been going to the gym for 2, 3, 4, 5 years and they've not really seen any changes to their physique, versus the people that have been going to the gym for maybe 1 or 2 years and they've actually made loads of progress. We all know people who go to the gym and have been going to the gym. I know people who've been going to the gym since I was going to the gym, or started going to the gym when I was like 16, 17, and they still look the same. And they're not really seeing the benefit from that, but they're probably not tracking their progress in order to make sure and to analyze where their direction they're heading in. I'd also say weekly progress pictures is really, really important as well if your goal is physique development, because again, you might think, oh, I don't know whether I've lost any weight, or I don't know whether anything's changed in terms of my appearance, but actually when you look back, don't compare week 1 to week 2, but when you compare week 1 to week 7 or to week 8 or to week 10 or to week 12, then you can actually see, okay, we're making some really good progress here. But it's often you don't really notice that because obviously you're living in your skin, you see yourself in the mirror every single day. It's not something that you necessarily pick up on. Even people who are like around you, like maybe family or friends who you see frequently, sometimes they don't notice on it. Maybe it's that those friends that are you a bit more like long distance, when you see them after maybe 6 or 7 weeks, they'll then notice it then, because it can be quite hard to track in a sort of a micro sense there. I would also say as well, is a big mistake that I see clients make is that they always focus on scale weight. So they'll come to me and they'll look and they'll say, and we have spoke about this before, but they'll say they want to lose 5 kilos or something like that, or get down to a certain weight. But actually what they mean there is they want to lose fat and improve their image, so that they feel more confident in their body. So something that is definitely possible to do when you're fairly new to the gym. Unfortunately not for myself, but you can go through what we would refer to as like a body recomposition phase. So it is something where you can add muscle mass while reducing body fat. So therefore, your scale weight doesn't change that much, but because you've changed your body composition, your actual appearance looks very, very different. So that's something that I really have to highlight to clients as well, is that they are still making progress towards their goal. It's just not obvious on the scale weight.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's something I wish I did sooner. I didn't really start doing that until 2-3 years into my kind of fitness lifting journey, and I know I would have made a lot more progress sooner if I started tracking things. I wasn't weighing myself, I was taking pictures occasionally, but nothing regular, nothing actually concrete. And in the gym as well, I wasn't really tracking things. It was only from kind of 2 to 3 years onwards where I'd have it in the notes section on my phone, and then I found rep count, and then I started tracking things and comparing lifts and comparing week on week, but then also comparing over time. So like with the squat, for example, I injured my back and I could see I started at like 40 kilos and then I had to build it back up to 120 plus kilos, and I could see that progress over time. Whereas if I wasn't tracking that progress, it would have been a lot harder for me to keep on top of that and manage the injury side of it, but then also manage progress everywhere else to try and build the strength around the problem area. And this kind of brings us on to the next point of like comparing yourself to others. So like everyone's fitness journey is unique. Even if you start going to the gym at the same time as someone else and they're progressing faster than you, that's absolutely fine. Everyone's journey is different, so comparing yourself to others can be demotivating. Like me and Jason are kind of on a similar level, but there are exercises and different things that we're better at. I think Jason's rig is better than mine. I have better lifts than him, but he also has better lifts than me. So, we have that element of competition, but we're also aware that we're both completely individual, and we've had our own journeys up to this point, but we also have our own separate training programs, and we have our own goal essentially. So ultimately just focus on your own progress and celebrate your own achievements, no matter how small they may seem compared to someone else. Like for example, I had a client yesterday message me. I've been working with her for a year, and she basically messaged me saying this might seem like a really silly win, but I've just overcome a fear in the gym of sharing a machine with someone, and that made her feel like she was welcome, whereas previously she was petrified to go into the gym, and for her that felt like a lot of progress. Whereas if she was comparing herself to someone else and people that have been going to the gym regularly, that would demotivate her and potentially make her not want to go to the gym again. But now she's comfortable in that environment, she realizes people are really friendly, and chances are most people want you to succeed anyway. So just compare yourself to yourself rather than comparing to others. And we kind of see it a lot on Instagram. Jason and I discussed this earlier this week about like hybrid athletes and the Instagram influencers and everyone who looks really good. Chances are they're probably taking performance enhancing drugs, and if they're not, then that's absolutely fine, but you won't be able to tell the difference that easily. Jason and I have obviously got some knowledge around it, and we can see who is and who isn't. We're not going to call out any names because probably don't want to start any arguments, but the influencers that you're looking up to and the people you're comparing yourself to, they've either been training for a lot longer than you have, or they're using some drugs to make them look that way. And we actually had an interesting comparison between someone who is completely normal and isn't using any drugs and someone who obviously looks like they're using something. Obviously, we don't have any evidence to back that up, but it's quite clear. And yeah, I'm sure Jason's got something to add to that.
Yeah, I think certainly a trend that I'm seeing at the minute is obviously people are moving more towards sort of like high rocks training or hybrid training. It's kind of the evolution of CrossFit, and it is really popular. And I think it's a really good change in the fitness industry because it allows more competition, and it inspires people to get more involved with it. So definitely a force for the good in general. What I would say though is there is definitely some hybrid athletes out there who are filming themselves doing burpees or running or cycling, and however they have ridiculous like 20-inch arms, and it's like that has not been achieved through doing those exercises. And yes, some of them actually incorporate a lot of sort of bodybuilding training, etc. But you can tell when you look at these guys, you look at like the cap delts, the traps, you can even look at like sort of the skin tone they have or the changes to their skin. There's definitely some evidential signs that they are potentially using gear or PEDs, and then however they are then preaching for themselves or to their audience to then not take PEDs or to follow their workout plans, which they're inferring will deliver the physique that they've got, which isn't true. And you can see that when you look at people who are like known natural athletes who are competing in like high rocks and stuff. They have a very different look to their physique. It's less full. They've got smaller arms. They're not looking like as jacked, to be honest, than people who are on PEDs. And most influencers won't sort of discuss it publicly, which is fair enough because they don't obviously want to make sure that people are taking steroids or PEDs off the back of it. However, I definitely think there is a duty to be clear about it when possible and sort of manage people's expectations. People will dedicate their lives to try and achieve a physique, and then they will buy their training program or they will follow it, and they will really, really push themselves because they want to look like their idol. However, if their idol is using PEDs to enhance their physique, then actually this is something that means that the people who are buying it, their audience, will never be able to achieve, and then they're going to be very demotivated, and that could negatively impact both their sort of self-esteem and their mental health, but also like their fitness routine, because they might not actually want to continue with that because they're not achieving the results they thought they would achieve as well. So, I mean, it's been going on in the fitness industry since the dawn of time. I've been around and had an interest in it for long enough, so I've seen all sorts of breeds of it. However, that's probably one that I'm noticing the most at the minute, and something that people just need to be aware of.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think ultimately, as you said, people have a reason for taking them. Like the Instagram influencers, for example, they want to look a certain way because they've got some sort of brand initiative behind them, or they essentially just want to make a ton of money off the back of it. So they do that to maintain that physique or to push themselves to look better, to then get more sponsorships and to sell more programs and to ultimately make more money. Whereas you, being an average Joe, you don't need that. So just compare yourself to your own progress, and eventually you'll get to a point where you might be happy with.
I think one of the most important things for yourself in order to make sure that you're making progress is to get consistent. So we have talked about it a lot on the podcast already previously, so I'm not going to hammer home the point too hard, but simply you will not achieve any sort of result that you're looking to achieve unless you are consistent. You must be consistent, whether it comes to training sessions, whether it comes to diet, whether it comes to sleep, or all those sorts of routines that we've covered previously. The number one factor is consistency. The gym is not a sprint. It is a marathon, and it is something that takes forever, a lifetime, in order to get to where you want to be, and it's something that is ongoing and requires a lot of maintenance. So really, really important that we show up, we get the session done, and even if like you don't like a session, for example, like lots of people say, oh, I don't train legs because I really don't like, leg day and I don't like the DOMs afterwards or something like that, then actually there's different ways that we can adjust that session to make sure that it works for you. So for example, we can pick exercises that you prefer. So some people absolutely hate split squats, but they really enjoy back squats. So let's just swap those exercises out to then make sure that they're doing exercises which they enjoy. So that's one way we can approach it. We can also approach a lack of consistency by reframing the mindset around being consistent. So, for example, think about the end goal, what you're trying to achieve. Okay, well, I want to train my legs because I'm trying to maybe be more confident on the beach. I've got a friend, I won't say his name, but has very small calves. He's very conscious about his calves, and it's a real Achilles heel. So, he's someone that always thinks about, oh, I need to train my calves. So he's training them like every other session, or certainly very frequently because he's really aware of it. Does he enjoy training calves? No, but he's being consistent with it because he's actually got the end goal in mind that when summer comes around, he needs to get those calves out, and he needs to making them look really good. So yeah, that's something that we really need to consider, I would say, in terms of consistency.
Yeah, 100%. And we won't hang around too much on it because we've covered it already. But just showing up week in, week out, getting the sessions done, and actually just doing what you set out to do. Chances are you'll have a session you don't enjoy it. I don't typically like pull sessions just because they're my weaker sessions and I don't particularly enjoy them that much, but I still get them done because I know the consequence of not doing them. It's not worth it. So do all your sessions, actually find a way to enjoy them. Even if I don't enjoy it, I still enjoy chasing the progress and seeing the numbers increase, and then also having like some element of competition within myself, knowing that I've beat my previous lifts, and also knowing that I've had an injury and showing up consistently has then improved that injury. So yeah, just be consistent, it'll pay off. But speaking of injuries, this brings us on to poor form. So poor form is something that I encountered very early on, and that led to a lower back injury, which I'm still not suffering with now, but I'm very much aware of it with my training. So using improper form during exercises, it increases your risk of injury, prevents you from targeting the intended muscles. So actually take the time to learn the proper technique. This is one thing I did really early on. If I didn't know the exercise name or I didn't really know how to do it properly, I would sit there on YouTube and I would find a way to understand it. And this is going to come down to actually filming yourself doing it and then comparing your technique with that YouTube video, or just getting someone to critique what you're doing, not necessarily from a you're shit, you're doing this wrong, you're a failure, get out. Just get like a qualified trainer or someone reputable. That could be a personal trainer in the gym, it could be a friend that's been training for a long time. Just get their advice and then they can kind of point you in the right direction and tell you if you're doing it right. They can tell you how to make a change and improve your technique. And then just off the back of that, a lot of poor form comes from ego lifting. Both Jason and I have experienced this, but we've now improved on it and we don't always chase the numbers. So technique is important, but also lifting a lot of weight is important and pushing yourself to failure. But if you're sacrificing technique for the sake of lifting more weight, we see it literally day in, day out. I saw it earlier today during my session. People just do half reps because they can't get a full range of motion because they're so focused on lifting as much weight as possible. It goes back to that whole risk of injury point. If you can't go through a full range of motion safely, then doing half reps, it's probably going to lead to an injury at some point, particularly if you're early on. If you're more trained, you might have a way to work around it, but if you're just starting out, you don't have the musculature around your body to actually cope with that injury. And just because you're trying to target X muscle, another muscle might jump in and that's going to pop, and then yeah, you're out for 3, 4, 5 weeks before you know it. So yeah, use YouTube tutorials, that's quite a mouthful, and film yourself doing the exercises just so you can actually improve. And AJ Morris, a natural bodybuilder on Instagram, I think he's got YouTube as well, he said like this is probably the best use of your time between sets. So if you're looking at how to do the exercise better, or you're filming yourself and you're then watching it back to see where you can improve, could your stance width be changed on a certain exercise? Can you place your feet in a different position? Can you put your arm or your elbow in a different way depending on the exercise? And just actually reviewing what you've done to allow yourself to progress either the next set or the next session.
With ego lifting, I would say that is probably one of the most common mistakes that I do see in the gym. We've all seen, the kids who are like of the generation probably below us, broccoli head kids, some people call them. Wouldn't be myself, obviously. And they'll be crowded around the bench. They'll be screaming at their friend to lift like 225, and then he fails and nearly dies. But it's all caught on film, and it makes its way onto TikTok that night and goes viral. So we've all seen those sorts of videos, and the reason that happens is because they are ego lifting, which effectively means that they are lifting more weight than they can handle in a secure, safe, full range of motion. And I kind of question in my head, like, what do they think is going to happen if they're doing a rep and then actually they've not got the correct sort of of spotting in place, or they go too deep in their form, and or they stretch their muscle too far and they can't get it up. Like, I just question like the mentality with it. And we've all ego lifted a little bit in our time, but I think it's something that you need to get out of the habit of pretty quickly, and actually derive the value from your sets, not from necessarily the weight being moved, but from how it's being moved. And especially if your goal is bodybuilding, then we want to make sure that we're focusing on contracting that muscle in a nice controlled manner and getting a nice slow eccentric rep. We're not looking to just throw that weight around and use like a stretch reflex, or to do a smaller range of motion to try and move more weight than actually we can handle with proper form. So yeah, definitely something that I see in the gym, and it's something that does need to be stamped out for sure. Does have a place for it, but do it safely. Have people around you, get spotted properly, make sure you do it in a safe way. But yeah, the quicker you can get out of that, the quicker you'll start making progress. Another factor which can impact injuries as well is inaccurate warm-ups. This is something that I've got a real bugbear with, I guess, because I see online a lot of people doing like 30 minutes of like yoga effectively, or they're flipping around on the floor like a mud skipper. It's trying to warm up their lower back or trying to activate their glutes or something like this to then go into their session. This just is completely unrealistic for the most people. So most people, they're working a 9 to 5, or they've got a full-time job. Maybe they've got like a wife and kids at home. They've got an hour to go to the gym. They've got an hour to get that session in, which is going to help them towards their goals, which is going to improve their fitness, something that they want to enjoy themselves with, and is going to work towards their goal of maybe building their physique. But if they're spending half that session flapping around on the floor trying to get some glute activation, and then only 30 minutes towards the end of the session working on the actual exercises which are going to build the muscle which works towards their goal, then they're not going to see the results that they're after. So I think we can avoid doing 30 minutes of yoga to activate glutes if we actually work on having an accurate warm-up. And what that can involve is being intelligent with your exercise selection prior to like your compound exercises. So for example, if you've got good programming and your session is designed well, then you will start your leg day with maybe quad extensions, certainly hamstring curls, maybe some adductor works or abductor works on your glutes, and then that way when you go to complete your compound exercise like a back squat, you will then find that actually your knees are already really well warmed up, and you'll therefore be able to perform the exercise with a lot less pain, or any pain whatsoever, any discomfort. And you rather than having to do 50 sets to warm up, you'll actually find that you'll be hitting your working sets a lot quicker. So that is something that I'll hold my hand up as well. I've been the kind of guy who's spent like 20 minutes warming up for glutes before, and trying to make sure that I've done all these sorts of stretches, etc. However, it doesn't work. Like, there's much better ways to approach these sessions. Now, my way for I warm up for leg day is I'll go in, I'll hit some core exercises, so some abs, to get the core engaged, but also to train my abs and build those muscles. I will then add some quad extensions. I will then add some hamstring curls, and then some adductor work, so when you're bringing your hips together on a machine, and then I will go on to my compound exercise, which will be either like a Smith machine squat or a hack squat, and I'm really well warmed up then. So that's kind of like the exercise selection side to it, but then there's also considering doing warm-up sets in the build-up to your working sets. So for example, you should probably do 1, maybe 2 warm-up sets if you're already quite far away into your session. However, I would say you need to do as many warm-up sets to get yourself physiologically ready to then perform the working set, but they shouldn't detract from that set. So another common mistake I see is a lot of people, they overload their warm-up set, they then incur too much fatigue, and then actually when it comes to their working set, they're not achieving what they need to achieve within that set and getting the most out of it. So that's something that people need to be conscious of as well.
Yeah, 100%. I tend to. It depends on the session that I'm doing. If I notice that my lower back is a bit stiff pre-leg session, then I'll probably just do 2 or 3 exercises just to warm up the lower back a little bit, and then I'll just jump straight into my first exercise. That's probably like a hamstring exercise or a leg extension prior to that compound lift, whether it's a hack squat, a pendulum squat, whatever. And then those 2 exercises mean I've then only got to do 1 to 2 warm-up sets for that compound, and it just makes it a lot easier overall, rather than having this whole elongated warm-up. And particularly there was a bit of a craze when I first started training. I think it was coined by Grace Fit UK. She was selling a lot of booty bands, and Grace Beverley, if you don't know her, no shade at all, she's doing very well for herself. But yeah, she was selling a lot of booty bands and kind of pushing out this glute activation thing. if you're standing up, your glutes are active. You wouldn't be able to stand up without them. So yeah, you don't need to spend 10, 15, 20 minutes warming up your glutes, activating them, doing crab walks and side steps and kickbacks. Just get straight into your exercises. Do some form of like pre warm up, or not pre warm up, do some form of like feeder set exercise pre exercise, and then you can actually get stuck into your session. And the next point, a lot of people think they overtrain, but we've gone with the direction of undertraining, because chances are a lot of you are underestimating what you're capable of, in the sense of you're not pushing to failure, you're just stopping when it hurts or it's a bit challenging or you get a bit out of breath. And I think Arnie quoted this previously. He only starts counting when it starts hurting. So he starts counting like the most effective reps essentially. So, people, they're not increasing load beyond 10 kilos for glutes and squats, for example, just squatting with the bar because they're too scared to push for that load. It hurts, it's uncomfortable. But that is the whole point of physique development and building muscle. It is going to hurt, it's not going to be comfortable, but you have to do that if you want to build that muscle. And chances are, if you're doing 5 or less sessions a week, you're rarely going to overtrain. Life is going to bring you some deloads anyway, in the form of holidays, long weekends with your friends or your partner, Christmas, birthdays, whatever it is. You're going to have regular deloads whether you like it or not. Now, I know Jason and I, we probably train more than the average person, and we try to work around those sort of events. So if we go on holiday, we might squeeze in some gym sessions at some point, or if we go for a long weekend, we'll probably just take that as our days off and rearrange the training week around it. But if you're just an average person going to the gym, starting your fitness journey, you're going to have those deloads factored into your training program anyway, unintentionally, but that's just the natural course of training. But also, listen to your body, in the sense of, if you need a rest, if you're tired, if you're fatigued, if you're aching, and then you go into the next session and you're still aching, it's probably time to take a bit of time off, but also push your body's boundaries. So don't be a pussy, but also take a bit of rest if it's needed, but be aware of what that rest looks like.
Yeah, I think you just need to be really intelligent when you actually approach the gym and follow your training program. For example, if you're going to train biceps on Monday, biceps on Tuesday, biceps on Wednesday, biceps on Thursday, then yeah, you probably are overtraining your biceps there. You're not really allowing adequate rest. But if you're following a reasonably well thought out program, which allows at least 24, ideally 48 hours, or maybe even 72 hours after some sessions, before you go and train that same muscle group again. So for example, if you did like push on a Monday, legs on a Tuesday, pull on a Wednesday, and then took Thursday off, did then push on again on a Friday, and then did pull on a Saturday, and then Sunday off. That's my current split at the minute, and I find that is the optimal way for me to reach the balance of stimulating the muscle plus allowing enough recovery in between, so that I never really feel like I'm overtraining. I obviously am just coming back after a deload week. However, this is, as I said at the start, this is my second deload in about 12 months, and it was only because I kind of had like a little bit of a minor injury on the back of it as well. So I thought, well, why not take it as a deload? But most people who think they need a deload probably don't need a deload. It's not something that you need to do like 6 weeks of training a specific program, then take like a week deload. You're just wasting time there, really. So actually, if you have a good recovery and rest routine, then you should be fine in between your sessions. Another thing that would impact it as well would be your nutrition as well. So another common mistake we see is people neglecting their nutrition. So we have spoken about nutrition in detail in a few episodes previously, but I just do want to cover the main points in terms of not eating enough protein. This is a big one. So they end up loving going to the gym. They end up enjoying that euphoria feeling. They end up enjoying getting a pump. They end up seeing the progress there and thinking, oh, this is great. However, then they fail to eat enough protein. They'll have like 50 grams or 40 grams of protein, and it's like, okay, well, you put in all this time into the gym, surely you want to make sure you achieve that goal as quickly as you can of building your physique. So you need to make sure that you're having enough protein in there. Again, a gram of protein per pound of body weight is generally a good rule of thumb. You can go slightly over that, you can go slightly under that, but make sure you get enough in, and that you make sure that each meal has some sort of protein source in there, so you can spread your muscle protein synthesis across a 24-hour period. What I would say as well is that a lot of clients just don't eat enough in general. So, for example, they're like, "Oh yeah, I'm trying to add on muscle mass," but actually, what they're doing is they think they're eating a lot, and then you go, "Okay, well, go away and track your calories on MyFitnessPal for 7 days, and then come back to me." And then they come back and they're like, "Oh, I'm only having 2,200 calories." So it's a really common mistake where people just miscalculate whether they overshoot it or undershoot it, their calories, and that's the reason why they're not making progress. So I've had clients before where they're like, "Oh, I'm really struggling to lose weight. I think I'm on like 1,800 calories or something like that." And actually, the reason when they go away and track all the actual table sources or condiments or like pasta sauces they're using or oil they're using, which is obviously very calorie dense, or milk in their sugar in their and sugar in their teas and coffees, then that all contributes, and actually they're in at calorie maintenance, body maintenance, rather than actually in a calorie deficit. So that's something that I see as a really, really common issue as well. And if people are neglecting their nutrition, then they must prioritize getting that right before they see the results that they're looking for.
100%, and that's something that I did when I first started. For the first 1 to 2 years, I wasn't tracking calories, I wasn't aware of what I was eating, definitely wasn't getting enough protein in, and this is just going to come down to actually tracking accurately as you can, even if it's just a case of roughly estimating what you're doing initially just to get used to that tracking element, and then you can start weighing out foods and then seeing what you're currently eating. And then if it's protein, look at the protein sources that you're currently getting, just double them up. If you're cooking, I don't know, 100 grams of chicken, it's not going to take you much longer to cook 200 grams of chicken, and the food volume from that is literally going to be nothing. So just be aware of what you're eating, and neglecting your nutrition is probably going to set back your progress overall. And I feel like all of this would be negated if you actually had some professional guidance. It's something that I would have benefited from if I had it early on. So, starting a fitness journey without proper guidance or support can be very overwhelming. You've got the training plan to think of, you've got steps, you've got nutrition, you've got recovery, you've got so many factors that go into it. So working with a qualified personal trainer or a health professional or a coach, me from PDK Fitness or Jason from Uplift, we both have coaching spaces available. We can help you set those realistic goals and develop a tailored workout plan around you in terms of the equipment you've got, what you want to achieve, your injury history, and just kind of the time that you have available. And we can actually help you make informed decisions about your nutrition and your lifestyle. So if you're not getting enough protein in, we can suggest ways that you can do that based around what you're currently eating. I had a client this morning who was like, "I'm going for brunch this weekend with some friends. Can I send you a menu and you give me some advice on what would be best to order?" Like, yeah, go for it. And then I literally gave her 3-4 options to choose from. That means that she can now go into that brunch social event with less stress and less worry, knowing that the things that she could order is probably going to still be in line with her goals, and then the rest of the day she can just carry on as normal. Obviously calories will be adjusted slightly, but that's the best way to go about it, having that professional guidance and essentially someone in your corner just guiding you in the right direction, not necessarily dictating what you do, because it's your life and you make the final decision essentially, but we just guide you and nudge you along the right path and make sure that everything's lined up for you to make enough progress.
Yeah, you see it in every single field. It's not just within fitness, it's also within business mentors or any sort of area where anyone's looking to improve. You want to find someone who's slightly further along the path, but they've been where you are, and then they can show you the lessons without the scars, I think is the Alex Hormozy quote. Because even Alex Hormozy is an example. So obviously he's a guy, he's pretty jacked, used to work in the fitness industry, clearly knows how to train, but he also has a PT because he doesn't want to think about, well, what am I doing today in terms of my session? What does that look like? He wants to outsource that to someone else, and he obviously can afford it as well, but it's something that he sees a benefit from, even though he's got a decent physique on himself and has had a career in fitness. So whether you're just getting started or further on down the line, always finding a coach or someone slightly further ahead just to guide that path and to illuminate that path, and to guide you through that is definitely the best way to do it. And they also then can help you, and you can become a bit of a team. So for example, you can bounce ideas off them, they can kind of be a bit of a sounding board, and actually they can then help you come to the right conclusions to make sure that you're on track and you're working towards your goals. So it's almost like a complete life hack if you can get a coach. It's something that had I have done it earlier, then I would have seen a lot more progress. It's something that my clients who are applying the learnings which I learned through years and years and years of training and going through research and through YouTube and going to university and doing sport and exercise science. All of these areas I'm now giving to my clients, and they're seeing progress much quicker than when I first started to see progress in the gym. So it's definitely worth its weight in gold if you're serious about your training and you want to improve.
100%, and there's no shame in it. Like, I've got a coach myself, and he is better than me. Like, he's got years of experience ahead of me. He's done a photo shoot before. He's coached people to do a photo shoot. I've never done one. I don't know what to expect. I've dieted to the point of being lean, but never photo shoot lean. So having a coach in that respect is probably the best way to go. And there's no shame about it. There's always going to be someone that knows more than you. So trying to go it alone is probably just going to be ineffective in the long run. And as Jason said, it can kind of negate all the mistakes that you might make. And, they essentially give you the lessons without the scars. So it guides you without having to make the mistakes. They can just give you the information, do this, do that, and then it works in the long run.
So yeah, completely agree. I mean, you guys can reach out to myself or Charlie on Instagram if you want to, and we will definitely help you out. So just slide into the DMs. That will wrap us up today's episode. So thank you very much for listening. We will see you on the next episode. Please subscribe. We're going to start up YouTube uploads as well.
Fantastic, yeah. Subscribe, share it with your mum, your nan, your auntie, your sisters, brothers, dog, whoever you think might benefit from it, and anyone you care about. And yeah, we'll see you for the next one.
Peace. See you in the next episode.